In a quiet corner of the bustling city of Ibadan, where the streets came alive with the sounds of traders and children's laughter, lived a man named Jaid Alaid. At 38, Jaid was the kind of man who drew attention without trying. He wasn't flashy. He didn't chase the limelight. But there was something about him, the quiet dignity in the way he walked, the calm in his voice, the kindness in his eyes, that made people stop and take notice. He owned a chain of agricultural businesses stretching from Oyo to Abuja, but you wouldn't know it by looking at him. Jaid wore simple clothes, drove a modest Toyota Hilux, and lived in a rented apartment in town, even though he had a large, isolated house built up on a quiet hill at the edge of the city. Very few people had ever seen the house. He called it Oak IRP, the Hill of Truth. Jaid was a cautious man, especially with matters of the heart. Over the years, many women had come into his life, attracted by his success and status. But it always ended the same: too many saw him as a ladder to comfort, not a partner to love. So he built a rule: no woman would know his true wealth until she proved her love was genuine. Then, he met Sade. She wasn't like the others. Sade was a school teacher in a public secondary school in Bodija. She lived in a one-room self-contained flat, cared for her ailing mother, and still found time to volunteer at a literacy center on weekends. Their paths crossed at a youth empowerment seminar where Jaid, as a guest speaker, had shared a story about perseverance. After the event, she had approached him, not to take selfies or get his number, but to challenge one of his points. That was the first thing he liked about her: her mind was sharp, her confidence graceful. They began to see each other. For 3 months, they spent time in simple places, eating roasted corn by the roadside, attending local plays, strolling through Agodi gardens. Jaid never flaunted his wealth. When Sade asked about his work, he simply said, "I run a small agricultural business." She never pushed for more. She liked his simplicity. And as weeks passed, they grew closer, talking about their dreams, fears, and even past heartbreaks. But still, Jaid wondered, is this love she feels, or comfort with what she thinks I am? One Friday evening, as the sky turned golden orange, Jaid looked into her eyes and said, "Sade, I want you to come with me tomorrow, to my house on the hill. There's something I want to show you." She smiled. "Of course. I'd love that." He studied her expression. No flicker of greed. No fake excitement. Just her usual warmth. Still, he remained cautious. The next morning, Jaid picked her up in his old Hilux. They drove through the outskirts of the city, passing farmlands and quiet estates, until they reached a long, winding road that led up to a hill. At the top sat a magnificent estate: stone walls, solar panels, a landscaped garden, and a view that could humble even the proudest soul. It wasn't just a house, it was a sanctuary. Sade's eyes widened as they parked. This is your house?" she asked, clearly surprised. Jaid didn't answer immediately. He unlocked the gate, let her in, and said, "I built this place with my own hands, little by little, over the last 10 years. But I've never brought anyone here, until now." She turned to him, still stunned. "Why now?" "Because I needed to know," he said. "To know if what we have is real. If you love me as I am, not for what I own." Sade looked at him for a long time. Then she walked slowly through the compound, admiring the garden, the flowers, the stone-paved paths. She paused under a mango tree, turned around, and said, "You thought I wouldn't love you if I knew this?" "No," he replied gently. "I thought you might love what I own more than you love me." Silence hung between them like morning fog. Then she smiled, a soft, sad smile. "Jaid, I've dated rich men. Men who offered me cars, vacations, even houses. I turned them down. Not because I hate comfort, but because I knew they didn't love me, they only loved the idea of a wife-material schoolteacher. You're the first man who listened to me. Who saw me. Who never tried to impress me, just shared time with me." Jaid took a deep breath. They spent the rest of the day walking around the estate. Sade helped him water some plants in his greenhouse. He showed her a library he had built, filled with books and journals. They even cooked together fresh okra soup and amala in his open kitchen. It felt easy, natural, good. As the evening sun dipped behind the hills, they sat on the balcony, watching the clouds turn red. "I need to tell you something else," Jide said. She turned to him. "My name isn't just Jide Alade. It's Jide Alade M. Oliphant, the sole heir of Alade Farms and Holdings. I own land across 6 states. This estate is just one of many. I've been hiding this, not out of shame, but because I've been hurt before. I needed to be sure." Sade looked at him for a long time, then stood. He braced himself. She walked up to him, took his face in her hands, and said softly, "Whether you live in a palace or a one-room flat, you're still the man who helped a little boy pick up spilled popcorn at the cinema without thinking anyone was watching. You're still the man who waited 2 hours in the rain just to meet my mother. You're still Jide. And that's who I fell for." Emotion welled up in his eyes. He held her hands tightly. "Then stay," he whispered. "I'll stay," she replied. Weeks passed, and Jide and Sade became inseparable. Their love grew deeper, stronger, now rooted in truth. Jide slowly introduced her to his world, the board meetings, the estate managers, the partners. Sade adjusted with grace, never changing who she was, only expanding. But not everyone was pleased. One of Jide's former girlfriends, Tola, had heard of Sade and began spreading rumors that Sade was a gold digger. She went as far as confronting Sade in a shopping mall, warning her to leave what doesn't belong to her. Sade came home shaken. Jide, hearing the story, stood up immediately. "Let's go." "To where?" she asked. "To settle this." They drove straight to Tola's boutique. Jide walked in calmly, but with the quiet fire of a man ready to defend his queen. "Tola," he said. "I heard what you said. I won't dignify it with insults. But let me tell you this, Sade didn't chase wealth. She walked into my life when all I gave her were roasted corn and conversation. She's the most genuine person I've met. And if you can't be happy for us, that's fine. But don't ever try to stain her name again." Then he turned and walked out, holding Sade's hand. Outside, Sade whispered, "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did," he replied. Because love doesn't hide in silence when it's time to speak up. A year later, they stood under a flowering tree in Jide's estate, surrounded by friends, family, and laughter. It was their wedding day. As Sade walked down the aisle, Jide remembered the first time she stood in his compound, wide-eyed but unmoved by wealth. She hadn't come for the house, the lands, or the title. She came for the man. And in that moment, he knew he had taken her up his house to know if her love was real. And she had shown him, without a shadow of doubt, that it was.